Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to week number 2 of the Premier League prediction series. This week we get to take a look back on how I did in week number 1, and we also get to look at how you guys did in your Twitter entries. So I do this series where I put out a tweet the day before the first game and I take entries within the first few hours over on Twitter. If you don't follow me on Twitter and you want to get involved with this series, you may be a couple of weeks late in terms of the scoreboard, and we're going to take a look who is top of the George Benson predictions table today, but you can still get involved and I will take all of the predictions. I've got a massive document where everyone's points are saved, and as the league goes on, there might be some prizes available to those of you that contribute every single week. Now, before we get into my predictions for this week, let's take a little look at how I did last week. I'm not going to focus too much on it because, quite frankly, I did a little bit below average. I got 5 points. Now, the way that the point system works, it's very simple. If I get the score prediction exactly correct, it acts as a win. It acts as 3 points. If I say that Liverpool were going to win 4-0, yet they win 4-1, I get the home win element of the prediction correct. It counts as 1 point. So if they win 1-0 and you said 7, it still counts as 1 point. And if you get it wrong completely, you say Watford to win 2-1, yet Watford lose the game, it's 0 points. Hopefully that's relatively self-explanatory. Let's take a look at how you guys did. So the leader in the George Benson prediction table after week number 1, it had to be a name that I just can't pronounce for love nor money. I really can't do it. Kai Rieninen 7. Kai Reinanen. So we got the Liverpool prediction bang on correct, which is a big 3 points to start off the weekend. Man City 4-1, that's another point there. Bournemouth versus Sheffield United, it finished 1-1, so that's another 3 points. Moving Kai onto 7 points, and then he got another point for Palace and Everton being a draw. That moves him on to 8, and then he got the Arsenal-Newcastle score correct as well. So 3 correct scores, leaving Kai on 11 points. In second place from week number 1, we've got Ibby, _7867. That one's a little bit less of a tongue twister. Norwich versus Liverpool, he got himself a point there. He got a point for the West Ham City game. He got a correct score for Bournemouth versus Sheffield United, predicting 1-1. He then got another correct score with Spurs beating Villa 3-1, and then another point for Leicester drawing with Wolves, and another point for Arsenal winning at Newcastle with 10 points. And then in third place, the bronze medal position, is our man Bradley Bag, or Bradley Beige, whatever you want to call him. Liverpool, Norwich, he got a point there, a point for West Ham City, another 3-pointer in Bournemouth's draw at home to Sheffield United. He got a point from Burnley beating Southampton, a point for Spurs beating Villa, a point for the Leicester Wolves draw, a point for Arsenal winning at Newcastle, giving him 9 points, putting him in the top 3. I'm going to flash up a load of everyone else's predictions on the screen over the next few seconds, and then you can see from week number 1, the prediction table looks a little bit like this. George Benson is there with 5. He wouldn't even make the top half. I'm talking about myself in third person because I'm ashamed. So that was a flashback to last week's predictions and how the table looks right now. As for the Premier League this weekend, we have got some tasty matches in there, and I'm going to give my predictions and hopefully beat last week's dreadful score of 5 points. So the first game of the weekend, we've got an early kickoff on Saturday. Arsenal, who got a good 3 points last week away at Newcastle. It wasn't the complete performance from Arsenal, but it's a clean sheet. It's a good start to the season. Newcastle's always a difficult place to go, and I feel as though Arsenal are going to continue with a 100% start to the season by beating Burnley 2-0 in week number 2. Burnley had a great result last week. They beat Southampton 3-0. Maybe we can see the Burnley before last season. Last season was not great from Burnley. The season before, they were one of the stories of the Premier League campaign. They started very, very well last week. I don't see it continuing at the Emirates on Saturday. Into the 3 o'clock kickoffs on Saturday. The first one is Aston Villa's return at Villa Park in the Premier League. Their fans are going to be so buzzing for this game. If you're a Villa fan, let me know if you're going in the comments down below, although by the time you see this, it's probably Saturday morning anyway, so you might already be on your way or already at the ground. I'm going to go with a home win. I think Aston Villa, at times against Spurs, looked very good. I think that they've made a lot of signings. We've spoken about that a lot in week number 1 and in my Premier League predictions video, and I don't see Bournemouth going to Villa Park and ruining the party in their first home game of the season. Villa 1, Bournemouth 0. The second game, one of the surprise results of the weekend, was the brilliant performance from Brighton at Vicarage Road. They went away 3-0 winners, and nobody predicted that from any of the entries. There was like 52 people that sent in a valid entry for week predictions number 1. The people that weren't valid were those that missed out matches. I'm only taking it if every match is covered and if you tweet after one of the matches has already been. So you've got to get in early, so make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link is in the description. Brighton versus West Ham. West Ham had the worst start to the season they could possibly have. They don't like the opening day of the season. They consistently get battered in match week number 1. Brighton started very well, but I see the tables turning in this one. I don't think West Ham are going to have a season that is determined by week number 1. And I think they're going to go to Brighton. They're going to go to the coast and pick up a win. Brighton 1, West Ham 2. The next game, Everton versus Watford. The first Everton fixture of the season was kind of overshadowed by the fact they were playing against Crystal Palace and they could have signed Wilfried Zaha. The match finished 0-0. There wasn't really a lot to say. It was not the worst 0-0 I've ever seen from watching the highlights, but I feel as though Everton's first game at Goodison Park, we say this almost every year that Everton could challenge this season for European places, but they've made some great signings, and for me, as an outsider, I don't really have anything against Everton. I've been to some boring away days at Everton and some incredible ones as well. When Pedro whipped it in the top corner, I was there and I got blamed for a stupid kid behind me who ran on the pitch and broke my seat. So I got in trouble for that, but nothing came of it. All is good. Everton 3, Watford 1. It's been a torrid start to the season for Watford, and according to my predictions, it's only going to get worse. So Norwich versus Newcastle. There were a lot of signs from Norwich last week at Liverpool that they could have a very promising season. I think they might ship in a load of goals, but they also might do quite well going forward. As for Newcastle, it wasn't the worst performance. There was a lot of positives from them in their defeat at home to Arsenal. However, I don't see it getting any better for the Geordies in match week number 2. Norwich's first home game back at Carrow Road. It's a great atmosphere. I'm actually going to Norwich away when Chelsea play on the 24th of August. So next week, I'll be at Norwich away. And I see Norwich picking up their first points of the season in a 2-1 home win. Southampton versus Liverpool. It was a bad start to the season for Southampton. They would have looked at that game at Turf Moor last week against Burnley as an opportunity to pick up some away points. As for Liverpool, as we expected, they beat Norwich quite easily, despite a few negatives here and there, and they've just won the Super Cup. Congratulations to them against my beloved Chelsea. I see Liverpool carrying on a 100% start to the season, and Southampton still searching for their first points. 3-1 to Liverpool. The biggest game, arguably, of the weekend is the Saturday evening 5:30 kickoff between Manchester City and Tottenham Hotspur. Both teams had very good starts to the season. Spurs bounced back from going a goal down against Aston Villa to comfortably win the game 3-1. And Man City, well, it's Man City. They steamrolled West Ham at the Olympic Stadium 5-0, and I see them carrying that on with another victory at home to Spurs on Saturday night. I've gone with City 3, Spurs 1. Again, I think when we look as the season goes on, I'm going to show my predictions and where the table would be compared to the realistic table of where everyone actually is. And I don't think there's going to be many times this season where I don't predict Manchester City to win the game. And I think City will win this one. It's nothing against my dislike for Tottenham Hotspur. I'm a Chelsea fan. Just get used to it. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. City is so good, aren't they? And I think 3-1 is a fair prediction. Maybe I'm proved wrong. We'll see. 1400 hours. No one ever says that. 2 o'clock in the afternoon. What a flipping idiot. Sheffield United versus Crystal Palace. The first home game of the season for Sheffield United. There's going to be a buzz around Bramall Lane. Palace got a good result, in my opinion, on match week number 1. A 0-0 draw at home to Everton. It's not a bad start. I feel as though they're going to go to Bramall Lane and pick up all 3 points. I've gone with a 1-0 Palace away win. So then, the big one. It's Sunday's game, Chelsea versus Leicester. How do Chelsea bounce back from a hammering at Old Trafford? How do we bounce back from losing a European final on penalties on a Wednesday night? The way that we bounce back is with a win. I'm going with Chelsea 2, Leicester City 1. I think the atmosphere at Stamford Bridge is going to be electric tomorrow, with Frank Lampard's first game as manager, with all of the positive energy despite the results, even with the results and Chelsea needing to win games so that we don't start falling behind the pecking order early in the season. The atmosphere is going to be as good as it's ever been this Sunday between Chelsea and Leicester at Stamford Bridge. At this moment in time, I don't think I'm going, so expect a live stream tomorrow afternoon. If you don't see a live stream, it's because I'm going to the game. It's kind of the way it's going to be this season. Chelsea 2, Leicester 1. I'll save a little bit more for my preview. Monday evening, this is a corker of a fixture. If you look at Wolves last season, they were brilliant against the big teams, and this season, I think that may continue. Manchester United were very impressive on the counter-attack against Chelsea last week. They beat us 4-0 in a very pleasing performance for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's team. The Molineux, it's going to be a fortress for Wolves this season. They're going to need it to be. They won in the Europa League on Thursday night, which is why they're playing this fixture on the Monday. Wolves are looking good value in Europe, and I feel as though this could be a cracker of a football game. I think United will play similarly to the way they did against Chelsea. They may dominate dominate a little bit more, but the way Wolves play and the way they were last season, I expect this to be a tricky fixture for Manchester United away from home. I'm going to go with Wolves 2, Man United 2. Slightly on the fence. So yeah, that was my predictions for match week number 2. By the time you watch this, it will be too late to enter into the series because I'm only taking entries from Twitter. Otherwise, I'd be spending my entire week making this one video going through everyone's YouTube comments. There's already plenty coming from Twitter, so follow me at Mr. George Benson and get yourselves involved. But even if you don't want to do that on Twitter and you don't really care about being involved in the series, let me know in the comments down below how you think this weekend's Premier League matches are going to go, and I will catch you all in the next video tomorrow, or maybe later on today. I will see you all later. Goodbye.